Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and we want to talk about a new generation of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes players that I've kind of noticed growing largely over the past month and a half of these dark side clones. Jedi Temple Guard is here. I've noticed a trend very recently that I think there's this new generation of players now. There's and when we talk about generations of players, again, this is a concept I've introduced a long time ago. Basically just has to do with where do you fit into. Your launch player, were you there when raids became a thing, or territory battles, or TW, the Sith raid, GOTB, GLs entering the game, Relicates in the challenge pit raid, Rise of the Empire crate dragon, like when you started playing SWGOH, what was the first major thing that you remember? And each of these generations of players, and again, there's other ones that I just kind of highlighted a bunch that I remember that I've kind of broken out over the years, and maybe it's time I revisit this topic and give you guys, hey, here's all the generations I can remember. But the big thing is that there's a new one now. And this one is very different because a lot of these things were marked by changes in the game in regard to here's a new game mode, here's something new to chase. This new generation is a little bit different than that. And not that it isn't something that's new to chase, but it's the method of acquisition that we're going to be paying attention to. Maybe you guys are guessing that already. Let's give a quick shout out to our channel members, as always, for their continued support. If you are ever interested, link below, along with a link to our Discord. Go check it out. Thank you guys again for keeping the faith, believing in me, sticking with the channel through good, bad, all the in-between. You guys are the best, and I really appreciate you being a part of the Fat family. So let's get in here, and let's talk about the next generation of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes players. Alright folks, so this generation of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes players, if you haven't guessed it, has to do with the new marquee system and, to a much larger extent, era battles as well, which we don't have any era battles active, but they'll be coming soon. But this new marquee system in era battles has brought on a whole new array of players. And when you go to my squad arena, I feel this is a great place where you look at, Mol Gugek here, Tile. These are both players who have historically always kind of had the new stuff. Maybe not always day one, but they've always historically had the new things. They've got the large accounts. They're in the big guilds, so they get those things. Similar situation even with, Sia Granta here. They were another player like that. Coming down to Basara was another player, and even one, I think there's one other one. Maybe they're not on here anymore. Oh yeah, where's Supersonic? They're not running Lord Vader. Supersonic, another example of those are players who I always look to, and they had the new things. They're at that tip of the spear, right? They were always around, always, getting those new characters very early on. But with this change to the marquee system, there's a lot more players like Darth Vorian here, even Max Zach, who he was always, and Zach's a really great guy. Zach was always kind of close, but never quite to this level because of the, the cost of entry. This guy, Davy Jones Locker, Psycho here, these are all players who have been kind of wailing, wailed a little bit, got the new clones. Basara's done it before, where they've, kind of came in here and they're like, hey, I'm going to get the new clones because it's a lot cheaper. This new generation of player is this new age whale. These players who before were never whaling on characters, weren't really getting the new things. And now that it's a lot cheaper, now that it's a lot more accessible, everybody's hopping in. And even to an extent, you could almost throw me into this category a little bit of, I've got Oppo at Relic 9. Now, I obviously benefited from that era battle bug and everything, but I still have a character to Relic 9 before he's even in, available on a node. So we've made, there's this new generation of players who are able to get to characters far sooner than ever before, whether through the use of era battles, the marquee change, or just through being able to whale and not having to spend $300 a character. And with these players, with this kind of new age player, what you're beginning to see is a lot more competitiveness, not just in, say, your squad arena, right, but also think about fleet arena. There's players there who are now getting closer to that point of they've got this new stuff, and because they're, okay, I'm getting my, maxed out, like, getting my maxed out clones or whatever else. This guy has them. They're just not on his arena team, but, like, these players now are like, oh, well, I may as well just whale on Leviathan then. I may as well just whale on my ships then. And so they're adding a lot more competitiveness to the game where before there wasn't as much. I cannot tell you, of the Grand Arenas since Oppo has been around, I don't even think I could get to a full round of... I might be able to get to 3 opponents who did not have Oppo Kron. Not just Oppo at Relics, Oppo Kron. So that means that they got him within the first week. So it's just kind of this crazy situation, if you will, where these new players kind of challenging into the game and making it, you know, gotta say, there's parts of me that I like because I think it's great for content, great for the community. It's getting people to help keep the game alive, right? But it's also a dangerous sign for the community because one of the things that you used to be able to say was that the competitive free-to-play was a thing. Being a competitive free-to-play was absolutely a thing. That is now shrinking because it used to not, like the difference between spending $100 in this game versus 0 was a lot slim. There wasn't nearly as much, there wasn't as many packs available. There wasn't as much that $100 could do for you, that you needed $200-300 to really make a difference. So you could easily be a competitive free-to-play through just smart play styles because it took so much money to spend that people weren't willing to do it. Now, this generation of players where they're whaling on these things, they're getting them earlier. And again, that's not about, it is long-term good for the game. It is going to hurt the competitive free-to-play because your competitive free-to-play now has to contend with players who are going to have the new stuff. They're going to have the new crons, and they're going to have them in abundance. And it's not just that they get, say, the new stuff, but like these other guys, but some of these guys I know are whaling like day 1, right? Like this guy here, I know he had Oppo Kron like day 1. I couldn't believe it. I remember looking in his, and right now he doesn't have it, but I remember looking in his kit and I was like, holy crap. You know, I couldn't believe it. And I used to be in a guild with him, so I messaged him. I was like, geez, dude, that is crazy. But that's just that's the state of some of these players right now, is that they are whaling day 1 right away. This guy, I figured he wouldn't. I'm trying to see. I thought there was one guy who has been, and it blew my mind when it does happen. Let's see, have you done it? Nope, thank goodness. So I will let you guys know in a later video if I find them. I don't want to keep just searching through, like, picking my nose in where everybody is to be like, oh, did you do it? Oh, did you do it? Oh, did you do it? But it is kind of crazy because this new age of whale is something that you're going to have to contend with. And it's also a situation that if you are a player, right, if you are the person like me where you're in that level where, okay, I can almost compete with those guys spending the new stuff. Well, now there's a whole group of them. And it's going to make your life that much harder, which means you're going to have to be a lot more diligent with what you're doing. And that's why I think some of these data crons are coming into play. These focused crons, these other ones, they're there to help try to bridge that gap for you. Because some of those data crons, if we're honest, some of these focused crons really make a difference, can help kind of drive that gap. But that's assuming that your opponent isn't also investing in them as well. So as a competitive, player who I spend a little bit, I'm a light spender, but, you're competitive, free to play or whatever you want to consider yourself, I would just bear in mind that that is going to be a lot harder for you now with the reduced cost of entry for these new units. And that even goes as well for guilds. I can tell you even as a guild officer that I will look at a player, and if they don't have significant progress done to their bad batch, I kind of scoff a little bit, and I'm like, all right, next. Like, that's just, again, the expectation is that people at our level are either spending that money or they're so focused, they're so intent on completing things that they're just keeping up with all that new stuff. That's not right, wrong, or indifferent, but that's just the truth. That's the way it is. So when I would see somebody now with only, a low star clone or something, you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're not doing the era battles? Like, we need to pick this up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket. So it is just one of these things where I feel like these players are creating a new generation. And I think new generations in SWGOH are always an exciting time, right? If we're honest, they're always an exciting time. They're always, it's always a cool thing to see that there's new people coming into the game. Let's see if this guy did it. Jedi Vanguard. There it is. There's one. I knew I would find one. Look at this guy. Relic 9, Omicron, Day 1. I knew I would find one. But this is your new Age of Whale, right? This is the new Age Whale. Now, he's obviously... And I say this because he didn't start out this way. And I don't know if the account... I don't know what happened, but... This is the kind of player that we're having to contend with now. These guys who... They don't care about spending a little bit of extra money if it means that they can get something for a week. This right here is a new generation that we have to live with. And it can be tough. And I'm seeing it in Kyber. You're seeing it in these places where it used to be run by the same... Like, I used to see the same guilds all the time. And now I'm starting to see a broader range of guilds. You're starting to see a broader range of player get into Kyber because there's more of them who have these things that can pose a threat. And that was one of the biggest things with this game, was that you paid for an advantage, right? You spend the money, you get that advantage. And now that that cost is so much lower, there's a lot more stuff that we're going to have to consider and a lot more stuff that we're going to have to see. So, folks, as I said, I am very excited for this. You got to let me know your thoughts on if you think, do you like this new generation, or are you like, no, anti-whale, they must die? I'm excited for them because I do think that it's going to push players to do more. And that was something that I felt was missing for a while, where you looked at that top part of the brackets in Kyber and it just remained the same all the time. And I think now there's a lot more volatility there because of these new age whales coming in and being like, hey, I got that stuff too. So let me know your thoughts down below. Like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.